Alright, Tuesday's stream, new ride line for Haruka revealed in the anime, along with Magnolia Masques, which has not been revealed yet, but for some reason they decided to reveal it now, so I'm just gonna assume that Magnolia Masques is gonna appear later on. Yes, the character who played Magnolia is already joining Uniformers, so it's already hinted that she will get Magnolia Masques. It's just surprising that they're revealing this now. But anyway, let's begin. So to start off with the Evil Eye ride line, we start off with Evil Eye Beast Omina Kitty. Here's your starter. It begins into a cat and forms into a dragon. That's the lore of this. Next, Evil Eye Beast Omina Krog, which is of course the grade 1 Wakey power with the skill Act Vanguard. Once per turn, cost Soul Blast 1, look at top 5 cards in your deck, choose one grade 3 or greater card that has Omni Gruzio in its name, put it to your hand, and of course shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, Soul Charge 2. You have 2 targets, and that's because the mass form is also revealed in the same set. But basically, important setup card for your consistency search, and if you fail, the Soul Charge 2 is very helpful, just letting you know. And then to the grade 2 with Tengi power, Evil Eye Beast Omnia Owls, which has the skill auto when placed by riding on top of Evil Eye Beast Omnia Crow, search your deck for 1 trigger unit and put it to your soul. If you put a card to your soul, draw a card. Yes, you lose a trigger, but the important part is its playstyle of needing triggers. So basically this straight up search up what you need. And the funny thing is, this card doesn't need its grade 3, so technically this could actually be used for the ride line of many other decks, because the grade 1 can Soul Blast 1 to Soul Charge 2 without searching for your grade 3, and this one can search for a card to Soul Charge, your triggers anyway, which is pretty good with Omnijester. Soul Charge your crit, I'm just saying. And then to the grade 3 with 13 power, Evil Eye Dragon Omnina Grazio, which has the skill auto when placed on Vanguard, look at top 5 cards deck to search for 1 Omnina Grazio from among them, or 1 Mask of Hydrogram, reveal it, put it to your hand, of course shuffle your deck. Yes, the main grade 3 boss unit that can either search for a copy of itself, or in this case even another form of itself, or a Mask of Hydrogram. The main playstyle of this deck is going to be hot potato between both of them. But anyway, second skill, which is the main one, Act Vanguard. Once per turn, cost Soul Blast 1, choose 1 trigger units from your drop zone, bind it. Until the end of turn, your opponent cannot increase power with trigger effects with the same card types as those trigger icons from your bind zone. So if you have a crit in your bind zone, your opponent cannot increase power with critical triggers, aka from their damage tracks. Heal triggers cannot get power from heal triggers. Basically an Evil Eye paralyzing trigger abilities, kinda. Basically the main playstyle of the archetype. And the fact that it can Soul Blast is going to be very important, because you're going to be soul charging, and that could even be triggers. You can Soul Blast the trigger and then bind it. I have to say, with all the consistency searching, plus the random soul charge, and even a consistent way to soul charge, and even other ways that you can Soul Blast like Gumnum Ram, this is going to be pretty simple to pull off. And the fact that you're going to have 4 of each trigger per deck is very likely here, and getting those from deck filtering is going to be quite easy. But so far, not too bad. And then we go to the mass form, Evil Eye Dragon Emperor Omnina Grazio Masque. Can only be written on top of an Omni Grazio with the first main skill, Act Vanguard. Once per turn, cost remove its old identity from hand, soul, or drop, choose 1 trigger unit from your drop zone, bind it, and this unit gets this ability. Count Vanguard. All your opponent's same trigger icon as those of the bind zone get shield minus 5k, and your opponent cannot change power from any units with those same trigger icons, like the original but with some extra bonuses, and it's a huge upgrade for it. Basically nullifying the trigger power. But anyway, second skill, Auto Vanguard. Once per turn, at the end of this unit attack, cost Counter Blast 1, put 2 cards in the back row rear guard to soul, stand this unit, and drive -1 until the end turn. A masked unit that is a straight up upgrade to the original because it's introduced in the same set. This one basically just gets a 2 Vanguard attack with minus 5k shield on your opponent on triggers. That is quite powerful with paralyzing your opponent's triggers right there. But if you're wondering what's with all the searching, that's because you go to original form, mass form, back to original form, and then mass form. Once you do that, you get basically 4 triggers in your bind zone, paralyzing all types of triggers other than 1 basically, because there's 5 different triggers, OT. But if you're playing premium, there's 6 because stand. But yes, the idea of this deck is basically bind your different trigger types so you can nullify your opponent's trigger power, and then basically hot potato back and forth to the mass form to original. This is so your bind triggers could be much faster and you want to be in mass form for battle anyway. Now for some support cards. Rune Collector. Grade 1 AK Power and Skills. Auto, when placed on rearguard you may soul charge 1. Now we got a generic soul charger for every deck because of this. And probably consider a budget option too, because it's not as good as Swirler and Goomnum Ram because of its second skill obviously, locked to an archetype, where count rearguard. When this card would be put to soul by the cost ability of your Omnia Grazio, it may be treated as 2 units, aka for Omnia Grazio Mask. Because that one needs to put 2 back row rearguards to soul, and this is going to be a booster in the back row, so this being counted as 2 units is just very helpful. Sure, you don't really get 1 extra soul, but this deck doesn't revolve around soul anyway. But yep, just another card that is pretty decent, especially that random soul charge that could be run in every single deck if you're in a budget. And then we get Misery Winged Dragon, which is a grade 2 with taking power and the skill is count rearguard. During your turn, this card gets plus 5k power for every trigger type in your bind zone. The deck revolves around binding different trigger types, so this will become a big beat stick. On the first grade 3 turn, probably getting 10k because you're going to go from base form to mass form, which will be 2. The turn after that will give you 2 more, which will be plus 20k. And in standard wise, if you can get the OT as well, that's plus 25k. So just being a big beat stick is already very powerful, especially minusing your opponent's triggers, and your opponent can't even play triggers practically. But the second skill is also pretty good because auto, when placed on rearguard, if there are 2 or more different trigger types in your bind zone, cost Soul Blast 2, draw a card. This is Dark States, soul charging is going to be pretty easy, and the deck doesn't revolve around using soul anyway, so this is actually fine. And besides, you want to go to your pieces as soon as you can anyway. And now to the new Magnolia Mask. Sylvan Beast King of Calamity Magnolia Mask. So we traded Emperor to King of Calamity. Okay, it's a grade 3 with tricky power, and the skill is, first off, can only be written on top of grade 3 Magnolia, with the first main skill of count Vanguard. During your turn, all rearguards with Dragontree Markers can attack from the back row and get plus 10k power. So it basically plays like regular Magnolia, where it allows your back row units to attack, except now it's trapped with a Dragontree Marker. But the trade-off is that you get more power from it, plus the Dragontree Marker itself that's plus 15k for each back row unit, compared to the 5k from basically Elder or regular Magnolia. This can be considered better or worse because the big thing is that you're going to need the Dragontree Wretch unit to generate your markers. But the strong trade-off is basically the power increase. So for this part, you can say it could be either better or worse depending on perspective. But anyway, second skill, at Vanguard, once per turn costs, remove its old identity, and then this card gets this skill. Auto Vanguard. When your rearguard attacks from the back row, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So you basically do not get the resurrection skill like Elder, but you still get the back row attacks and some extra bonuses from the back row attack. The only thing is Dragontree Markers, which makes Dragontree Wretch units necessary for the deck. So just hope that you do get those consistently enough, even though they are good for the deck if you're playing Order Engine. Finally, to a support card, Force Grow Dragon. It's a grade 2 with taking power, and the skill is auto, when placed on rearguard other than during battle. If your Vanguard is Magnolia Mask, cost count plus 1. Choose grade 3 or less units from the drop zone equal to the number of Dragontree Markers on your rearguard and call them to rearguards. Like I said, this deck really needs those Dragontree Markers. But the nice thing about this is that you can mass call your field. But the question is, can you generate those Dragontree Markers fast enough? Average, you'll probably get 2, but you'll probably get the third one without an issue either. But I'll still have to say probably 2 considering the amount of Dragontree Wretch units we currently got in Stokeia. But anyway, second skill, auto rearguard. When this card attacks, choose one of your Vanguards with Magnolia and it gets plus 5k power into turn. Really helpful for Magnolia because Magnolia itself actually doesn't get power for itself. You're not going to be boosting Magnolia either, so the extra power is just going to be very helpful for Magnolia. But for Magnolia Mass, it's just really good because you want to mass call your field, especially if you're able to generate those Dragontree Markers. Too bad it's just locked in Mass, but I get why, because if you play Dragontree Wretch in Elder, this could actually be a little too strong. So that's it for the new Evil Eye archetype along with the new Magnolia Mask revealed too early. What do you guys think of them? Evil Eye, pretty interesting that it nullifies triggers, basically, not really completely, it's just the power. And the fact that it got its Masques unit right at the same set as the ride line is very surprising to me. Kinda reminds me of certain other archetypes that would hot potato back from its base form to its evolve form, to its base form, back to its evolve form. As for Magnolia Masques, this was expected, especially on how the anime is going. The only thing is, it is quite early that they decided to reveal this before the character even played it. And also, Dragontree Markers. You need it for the deck. But on that, that's for this, and see you all next time.